The Pain of Duality. Written by Resident Sunshine. Read to you by Evie is Evil. Chapter 14. Summary. Mark sleeps in, then gets to nap. Layla and Mark get to experience some struggles with raising a fully grown and traumatized child. Red is at his breaking point, and JJ just wants his mum. Author's notes. Brief content warning in the endnotes, which I'm going to scroll to now. This is spoilers, by the way. So skip to the next time point in the chapters down below. Red has a bit of a mental breakdown, which during it is alluded to, that he has the beginnings of a substance abuse problem. His behaviors and thoughts are also erratic and may come across as OCD. I did not write with this in mind, as I do not experience this disorder. Alright, and back to the rest of the author's notes. Parts of this chapter got away from me, parts I struggled with, but hopefully it all flows smoothly. Hope y'all enjoy! If parts feel erratic, there is a chance they were deliberately written that way, as I try to get a bit more into the shutter speed system's mind. Alright, now on with the fic. Tim woke up confused, which wasn't anything new. What was new was the warmth surrounding him. Two bodies pressed to either side, and someone's breath gentle against the top of his head. Okay, maybe it wasn't new. He had woken up like this before with his friends, usually after one of them had a hard mission, or sometimes after he had a particularly large gap in memory. But he was alone here, and he had a feeling he knew exactly who it was based off the gentle notes of fancy tea, cinnamon, and myrrh. And maybe he should be embarrassed, cuddled up with his roommates like this, but it was hard to let the embarrassment seep past the warmth, the contentment. So instead of fighting it, of throwing himself off and away, he let himself sink back into the darkness, letting Layla hold him like he was something precious, letting her partner smush him between them like he was some part of a little family. And if he closed his eyes, he could imagine it was. His parents went to Egypt a lot, had fancy teas, but they would never hold him like this. Never comfort him, even when a nightmare left him crying so hard he thought he was going to puke. He shouldn't. They weren't his parents. He should be running, hiding, anything. But if he moved, he would wake them up? Yeah, that's why he couldn't. It made him feel like a kid again, like a distant memory he had of being bundled up under all the blankets while someone held him, hummed to him. It felt all staticky, fake, but he could picture them. It must have been a nanny, some teen with short red hair and a heavy accent, who would gently rock him and assure him everything would be okay. That he just had to let her take care of it. It was odd, but it was nice, and he would be rude to wake them after he probably kept them up all night. So he let his eyes slip shut, and allowed the darkness to creep back in. He could deal with the embarrassment later, process it as he tried to figure out how to finish this mission with Spider-Man, so that he may resume his own. It would help if he knew what he was doing, exactly. But he was adaptable. The next time Tim woke up, it was with a scream trapped in his throat, body thrashing out with a sudden spike of panic. He didn't quite understand what happened. Probably a nightmare, but it already slipped away, carried away as Layla's fingers worked their way through his hair, easing out the tension with each soft stroke. "Are you all right, Tiflon?" she whispered quietly to him, but her fingers never faltered. It helped ease him back from the adrenaline rush. Yeah, Tim croaked out, frowning as he realized he had been crying. What the hell did he dream about? Yeah, sorry, he repeated, guilt settling for waking her up. At least Mark was still sound asleep behind him. Tim? Layla asked, and Tim nodded along, confusion mixing in. What did she need? Why did it sound like his name was in and of itself a question? Do you want some breakfast? We can let Mark sleep in a bit more. He was out on a mission last night. Yeah, sure. I can make something real quick. You stay. Yeah, I can make something. Tim stammered out, quickly trying to detangle himself from the mound of blankets he wore. He owed it to them. They provided a bed for him, comfort for him. He was used to the transactional sort of love from Bruce. Love that always came with a price, but was there. He should have known better. That's not what I meant to have done. I was planning on making full madames and heating up some pita bread and eggs. I just wanted to know if you were hungry. Oh. Tim couldn't quite make sense, but he supposed that was on brand. Layla always seemed to be so weird. That wasn't quite the word he was looking for, but again and again, she kept breaking from what he thought she would do or say. I can help. Because he wanted to. He wanted to cook in the kitchen with her, wanted to spend time with her, wanted to slowly start to fill those gaps in that his parents left. But that was dangerous. That was idiotic. He knew better than to get so connected with someone. At this rate, he would have to fake his death when he brought Jason home, just so she could mourn instead of trying to find him for the rest of time. How about you keep me company in the kitchen? You can tell me how your photography went last night, Layla offered instead, a soft smile on her face as she rolled over Mark, who only groaned before filling in her space on the bed, spreading out like a starfish. It made something warm and dangerous blossom beneath Tim's ribs, but the only word that came to mind was domestic, in a way he had never seen before. But parents weren't like this. Only in movies. Only on screens and written in idealistic behaviors. Parents were supposed to prep their kids for the real world, to show them how to survive like a minnow among sharks, to pass on generations of knowledge, of practiced poise. His parents still held him and loved him, right? His childhood was full of holes, gaps spanning the wide depth of his mind. But that was normal when someone grew up, right? It was normal for his head to hurt when he tried digging for more, for staticky images to spew forth before slipping between his fingers, right? Normal to not have those memories because scrapbooks were full of archaeological dig sites instead of family members, walls covered in awards and recognitions instead of messy child drawings. He couldn't think about this right now. He had a mission and a host to entertain. He slid on his practiced smile and stretched out his aching joints, wincing slightly at his knee when he pushed down, stretching the sore joint. He could focus on that instead. A task. Tasks were easier. Tasks could be classified out, compartmentalized and categorized away. Tasks helped everything else ease back, like dousing the fires that slowly consumed his consciousness. Once he was done stretching and centering himself, he headed to the kitchen with Layla, soft, practiced smile pasted on his face. He let her make her traditional breakfast, but quickly got to work setting the table and cleaning the counters and dishes as she used them. Easy, useful, likable. Traits that felt like a part of him, even if he could not quite place where they came from. It's okay, Tim. I can clean up after myself. Why don't you rest that knee and tell me about last night? Layla tried, swiping the washcloth from the teen as she spoke. She didn't quite know what got into him, but something wasn't right. Something was off. It's okay, ma'am. Really, I don't mind. Ew, don't call me ma'am. I'm not that old, Layla countered, trying to stop herself from frowning. Yes, ma'am. Sorry. Tim forced himself to look her in the eyes, a sign of respect, despite the way it made his entire body want to revolt, despite the way it made his stomach twist up and heart throb painfully. He tried to last, he really did, but after a brief moment, he cast his eyes back to the spot on the counter he had probably wiped down 3 times already. Yet it still felt like it was crawling with germs, microscopic organisms just waiting for him to touch them again, waiting to burn and hurt his family. What the hell was wrong with him? He wiped it down again, pulling the washcloth back from Layla, then again for good measure. Once more to keep it even, but 8 was better than 6, so he went to take another swipe at it before Layla grabbed his wrist. Not hard, never hard, but that didn't matter because all he saw was a hand coming for him, and he flinched back, panic spiking so suddenly that he felt like he was falling, but nothing was there. Layla immediately let go of her kid's wrist and recoiled like she had burned him, because she might as well have with that reaction. It made something hot and angry surface. Not at Tim, not at anyone within his system, but at who hurt him just before. Whoever laid hands on him, who taught him to expect pain. "I'm so sorry, Tiflin. I didn't mean to scare you. I will never hurt you. I promise. You don't need to clean, okay? I can clean up after myself, well and easy." Tim, no, not Tim. She didn't know who this was, lunged forward, towel discarded to the side in the blink of an eye. She barely dodged the punch that was aimed in her direction, swirling in the small rental kitchen and holding her hands up as a sign of meaning no harm. She took a moment to take in the subtle shifts, the little furrow between their eyebrows, the blown wide pupils, how they moved more like a boxer than an acrobat. Definitely not Tim. Not Carrie. She had a feeling this was one she hadn't really met beyond that one hospital interaction. But something was off still.
"Oh, fuck you and your bullshit lies," Red hissed out, teeth clenched nearly as tight as his fists were, prepared to fight the fist of whatever god Robin had tried writing about. He actually didn't remember if she was the fist of Khonshu, or if that was her partner, or someone else completely. It didn't matter. Right now, she was a threat to that veil of safety he had so foolishly fallen for. And a threat was a threat, no matter how much they wanted to pretend to be familial. They didn't have a family, didn't need one. All of this was some bullshit lie anyway. None of it mattered, so why should he care? He could see the pattern, the lies, the pain, a mile away. So why should it bother him? What did it even matter anyway? None of this mattered. He focused back in on Layla, letting his fists drop just as quickly as the wave of fierce protectiveness came and went. "Whatever. I don't care what lie you're trying to spew right now, or what delusion you have sold yourself on. You don't fool me."
A smile tugged on his face as he took a step forward. "I just said I wasn't trying to hurt you, and I do apologize for making you think that. Is it okay if I speak with Tim so that I may apologize to him?" Red stared at her for a moment, all the gall and disbelief he could muster plastered on his face.
No, you can't. Just because Tim makes stupid-ass decisions and can't even protect himself. No, because you think you can manipulate him, manipulate us.
Red needed to move, energy pulsing, squirming, making its way under his skin. He started to pace the short kitchen, hands moving as he spoke rapidly, before his brain-to-mouth filter could click back into place.
"They're all falling for your lies. Your promise of family, of safety, or anything, but you're a liar. Everyone is a liar, and only I can see."
Red turned sharply, punching the wall as he emphasized the last part. Layla opened her mouth to speak, frown lines growing deeper as anxiety and worry built. But Red continued before she could.
"It's so fucking stupid. All of this. We don't need it. I don't need it. Allowing these attempts to what? Get back to a family that forgets about him? To try and fill a void that doesn't exist?
Red let out a humorless laugh as he resumed his pacing, hands fidgeting with themselves.
It's all so fucking stupid!
He winced as he twisted the quickly bruised knuckles from hitting the wall, but pushed on. Is there any way I can help? Layla offered, eyes flickering down to the hand, then back up to watch him, her mind running on what happened, what changed to make last time so different from right now. Perhaps we can eat and discuss? She offered, watching them scrunch up their face in actual disgust.
I don't do that. I don't need to do that. All of this is fake. A fake little family to try and replace the previous fake one, and I'm so fucking tired of it.
Red turned sharply, pacing back and forth through the tiny little kitchen. But it was useless. God, it was useless. He needed to get out, needed to get away, needed to do something, anything to make the static energy leave his body before he exploded. He hated this, but it had been building up and up, building under his skin and only dulled by the alcohol, the hard pain medicine. Maybe if Layla had some, he could ease it back until he could get one of the others to take over. But each call came back a hollow emptiness. Which was fine. He didn't need them. He just needed... He didn't know. He just needed to leave, to move, to run. What do you mean you don't need to eat? Layla set the mixing spoon down, stepping around to get in their way. Each pace was making her own anxiety rise, worry building and building for the teen she had taken in.
I'm going for a walk.
Red tried shoving past her, but she grabbed his arms. Not hard, but the touch burned, reigniting the anger that simmered beneath the surface. He smacked her hand away, harder than intended, because he knew. He knew how much everyone else cared for her, but couldn't they see? It was all a lie, a ploy. He needed to get out, needed to move, needed to escape.
Don't fucking touch me!
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to upset you. Could you please stay, though? You're still getting over being sick, and I don't think it would be wise to go out. Layla tried, letting go of Red as she spoke. She didn't know what set them off so much, but how they were behaving, the erratic motions, the yelling, the aggressive anger. It was all a red flag that meant they should probably not go out into the overstimulating environment that is New York City.
I'm not upset. I'm fucking pissed that for some reason you get to scare them, and yet they still run back to you with their tear-filled eyes and open arms. I'm fucking pissed that I'm back here again. I'm... Ugh.
Red let out a frustrated groan.
This is all bullshit,
he finally huffed. I get that you're upset, and I want to help you, but you're making that very hard when I don't know what is wrong.
Do you have a drink?
Red just wanted to stop the pulsating pain, the itching nerve, the building feeling. Why was he here if not to fight her, to protect the others? He didn't want to be here, didn't want to be stationary, trapped. It was driving him insane. Tea or water? Layla asked, all innocent. It curdled in his stomach, dangerously close to shame.
Tea,
he lied. He always lied. It was his specialty, just as much as it was hers. Give me a moment to get some brewing. Layla tried to hold her smile until she turned away, taking the brief pause to just breathe through the steps. She knew having kids would be hard. Knew taking in a traumatized, fully grown one would be even harder. She could do this.
Of course. My head is pounding. Do you know where my pills were? But I think I should still have some painkillers in there.
Oh, I think in your room? I'm not sure where exactly Tim put them, but for a mild headache, I have some Tylenol and ibuprofen in the bathroom. Layla hated that the hospital had given more than just his antibiotics, but she trusted the system to know what to take and when.
Thank you.
Red headed towards the bathroom, but veered off to Tim's room. He just needed something to dull the electricity throbbing behind his skin, and if she wasn't going to let him go start a bar fight, this would work. It had to. Maybe it would even knock him out so he could get a break again. Let someone else deal with this shit show. It didn't take long to find the drawer full of little orange bottles, and even less long to dump a few into his hand and swallow them dry. He would have to be cautious. The bottle only had a few in it, and the likelihood of getting a refill was next to none. That would be a later issue. Not like Tim would ever actually touch them. Carrie would probably throw them out. Robin would grit through the pain. JJ might, but only because he would think they were supposed to. And Timmy probably wouldn't take any of the appropriate medicine, let alone inappropriate ones. So he didn't have to worry about it being needed. Besides, it was just to ease the constant pain he was in. It wasn't a problem. He just needed to quiet his brain before he hurt them. A little something to ease the constant thrum that was building before it crashed down. He took a few slow, calculated breaths. He would be fine. He could get a little floaty, pain-free moment and blissfully let someone else take over. He knew it should take between 10 and 20 minutes to fully kick in, which really just means he had to go back there and face Layla, and try not to get pissed at all the lies she spilled forth. Easy. Red made his way back to the small kitchen, sitting on one of the stools before resting his head against his palm and watching, observing. Layla made him a plate of food regardless, sat it with a glass of water and his mug of tea. This was all so stupid, but what else was he to do? He just had to wait it out and hope that Tim, Carrie, or Robin would step in sooner rather than later. He tried to be respectful, nodding along, but Layla's voice bled into the background. It didn't matter. He still felt the energy pulsing beneath his skin and a need to move. If he stayed still, he may explode. Or maybe the roof would cave in, or that tree outside the window would come crashing down. He needed to move. Red got up, stumbling slightly as he landed off the chair, before grabbing the rag again. He could move and clean at least. If he cleaned, then maybe the way his vision pulsated and shifted would go away, and he could stop imagining his body crushed and bleeding. He thinks maybe Layla was speaking again. Maybe he heard a chair scraping. But he needed to do this right now, or they would all die. Or at least be severely injured. He needed to make sure everything was spotless. More than spotless. He started opening all the cabinets, trying to find a harsher cleaner, before two arms were wrapped around him and he was harshly pulled back. "No, let me go!" Red thrashed, panic rising to match the way his vision swam with a bright array of colors, like looking through an old kaleidoscope. It was nauseating, dizzying, but he needed to get away. He needed to get away and move, or something terrible was going to happen. He didn't know how to explain it, but he saw it. He saw what would happen, and they didn't understand. No one ever did.
Hey, listen to me, Nino.
Jake didn't quite know what was happening, but he woke to shouting, and he was pretty sure that is what triggered him to front. Better him than Steven, and Mark was still sort of all over the place. He didn't know what happened, but he came out to see Layla trying to wrestle a bottle of bleach from the kid, and he moved before he thought, bracing the thrashing teen against his body and holding him to his chest, pinning his arms up with his own and hooking his legs around his. It wasn't the best, but it was effective.
You need to breathe and tell me what is going on.
He tried tapping his fingers against the kid's shoulder where his hand rested, just to try to help him focus on anything but whatever set them off.
No, you don't understand!
Red swung his head back, making contact with a satisfying crunch, but the grip never lightened. In fact, it only tightened, and with it the panic rose. Touch on a normal day felt like fire, but right now everything was ablaze,
and the air was too thick to breathe. I need to.
Layla tossed the cleaning supplies to the side, panting softly from the tussle before moving back to the other two. Tiflin, it's okay. Nothing's going to happen if you don't clean up after me.
Shut up!
Red tried to pull away from his captor, breaths coming in ragged gasps.
I need to. I need if I don't.
With sudden clarity, he quickly looked to the window, visions swimming as he stared at the tree. Like maybe it wouldn't come crashing down right now. It didn't. Tiflin. Layla shifted to be closer, putting a hand on his knee as Jake kept him braced.
Shut up! You don't know what you're talking about. All you ever do is lie and lie and lie again.
Red tried thrashing against the hold again, desperation leaking into his movements. But the adrenaline crash was starting to hit, and his vision swam with each movement, colors blending together in a swirl of light. Red couldn't stand the hold, the pressure. It burned with a memory he didn't understand, and maybe it was that. Maybe it was the yelling, maybe it was the dizzying concoction, but it didn't take long for someone else to answer his earlier prayer, and for JJ to push to the front with a burst of tears. I'm sorry, please, no more, JJ choked out, full body shaking as the bands tightened and tightened until he felt like he was going to pop. I'll be good, I promise. He gagged, but forced it down. Daddy hated it when he made a mess and would leave him strapped up in it for hours, soaking in the vile smell of chemicals and bile. Jake shifted his hand up, pushing back the teen's hair in case he puked again, loosening his grip as they stopped thrashing, but not releasing it fully, just in case. He hated having to take such a precaution. It twisted and brought up something vile. It's okay, mijo. You're okay. Can you tell me where you are right now? Layla asked, shifting a bit closer, slowly blocking him in a way she hoped helped instead of hurt. But she was pretty sure that whoever was here was gone. Pretty sure that this was JJ, which meant the best course of action was going to be hugs. She just had to make sure first. Please, I'll behave. JJ tried to pull in oxygen, but everything was swirly and spinny. Daddy must have injected him again, but his veins did not burn, so maybe not. He felt like with each blink he was going between the old warehouse and the hard metal bed, and curled up with his mom and dad, and he didn't know which one was true and which one was a lie. This had to be some sort of new punishment, a chemical like fear toxin, but the opposite, teasing him with what he could have had, but he was bad, rotten. It's why he was here instead of there. It's why no one could ever look at him with such warmth and love. Monsters didn't get love, didn't deserve warmth. That's why he got the cold bed and the painful bands that would dig into bleach-damaged skin. It's why if Mommy was caught giving him a hug, he was forced into the vat again and again until his skin split and blood burst forth. At least then he would be a pretty sight, not something pathetic. Layla shifted forward again, slowly easing herself behind him and wrapping her arms gently around JJ, forcing Jake to loosen his grip again. It's okay, Azizi. Layla is here. So is Jake. And maybe it was the familiar burst of colors that helped break past the flashback, or the warmth surrounding him. But JJ wanted this to be real, so maybe it could be? He rubbed his snot and tear-covered face into her shoulder, trying to focus on the familiar color bursts as he looped her name around and around, until finally the bands gave way to arms, and his lungs flooded with air instead of bleach. Mom! His voice cracked as he tried to grab onto her with all the desperation he could muster, afraid that if he let go, then this visage would disappear and he would be alone again. You're safe, JJ. You're not with your daddy anymore. Layla ran her fingers through his hair, trying to help ease the tension away even more. JJ was so sleepy now, his eyes struggling to focus and stay open as the rest of the fight drained from him. Because, at least here, he was safe. He knew his mum would protect him from anything. He tried to keep them open, but each blink seemed to last longer and longer, until the icy tendrils of exhaustion seemed to pull him down. Once asleep, Jake carried the teen back to bed, tucking him in and putting on a little white noise machine that Stephen often used to sleep in hopes of chasing away any lingering nightmares. The first indication that something was off was when Red woke up. He didn't wake up. He was never one to be conscious for such a mundane task. Did something happen last night? A nightmare, perhaps? Something that triggered someone? A threat looming over them? He felt the after effects, like brushing against something, but not quite able to remember what. It didn't matter. He sent a call out to the others, a gentle prod to see if he could get a response, before getting up for the day. Was it even a new day? How much time had passed? He supposed he should make use of this weird day, even if the idea of being the one to front without an actual fight left a sinking feeling in his stomach. He was fine. He could do this. Just for a little while until someone else could take over. And ideally not Timmy. Without an imminent threat, that shouldn't take long. Tim should have woken up. Why did he? He carefully lifted the door up slightly, easing the weight on the hinges to prevent it from creaking, before gently padding out into the main area of the Airbnb. His eyes scanning for any threat. Instead, he only saw Layla and her partner, curled up on the couch together, fast asleep, while some documentary played in the background. Probably fell asleep watching TV. The sun was still pretty high, so he could assume it was probably from a nap, not the night. It didn't matter. He was tired of this, and it was time he stepped in. The first step was getting out and away from all this. But where would he go? What would he do? How could he protect them if he had nothing left to give? His head still throbbed. Or was that new? Why was he so disoriented? Red could figure that out later. For now, he needed to figure out how to protect them. Getting away from this fake family was a step. The first step. He tiptoed back to his room, grabbed their go bag, and dropped out the window instead of risking waking them up. He walked carefully, each step deliberately placed to make the least amount of noise, until he was far enough to run, to put any sort of distance between him and the dangers that lurked in the warmth. Now, what next? He didn't have a home. Not really. He could probably lead Robin to taking over an abandoned building as an apartment, but they still didn't have a phone, and money was getting tight. He slid his hands into his pockets, shivering as a chilled breeze blew around him. He pulled back out his left hand with a slightly crinkled business card. That's right. He could go to the weird school for Knot Meadows. He didn't want to go back to Gotham. There was nothing there for them anymore. But there? There, his family would be safe. Should be safe. At least for a moment more. Hopefully long enough to get it through their skull that they should move on from whatever mad chase Tim was pursuing. He scrounged through his bag for a few quarters, before finally finding a phone booth. He slid them in and turned the dial to each number plastered on the card. He idly skimmed the surroundings, a building feeling of unease blossoming up, but he didn't let that stop him. It was time he forced them to take care of themselves, and not some asshole who got himself stuck here, or some family that brushed him aside every time things got a little rough. It was time for Red to step up as the older sibling and help them, even if it left a dull, aching chasm spread wide in his chest,
leaving the two fists behind. It's fine. They would be better off without him, and he would be better off away from it all. It didn't take long after hanging up for him to hear a jet in the near distance. Now or never, he supposed. He just hoped whoever graciously took the reins didn't mess it all up.
And that is the end of chapter 14. Author's notes. I am not being nice to Red. Sorry in advance, but sometimes things need to be broken. And Red is processing all those pesky thoughts and emotions in a terrible way. Not the happiest chapter, but hey, next time we finally get the X-Men. And surely no consequences will come from Red making them go without finishing this mission or saying anything. Surely none at all. On a side note, what are y'all most excited for? What characters/interactions? Reader's notes, I am also curious. What are you guys most excited for? Because I know at this current time, this fic isn't the most popular amongst y'all. It is a very highly specific niche of DID Tim in the Marvel Universe. But like, guys, it's so good. And this is a fic, out of all the fics I've done, I've enjoyed the voice acting for this one the most. I'll be like, I'll drag my feet to record it. I'll be like, ugh. But then once I read it, I'm like, damn, I missed this. I love just how naturally it comes to me when reading it. Like, I just feel like I blend in with Tim's alters sometimes. Well, not really, but like, I definitely did it this chapter, where like the narration bits, I felt like I adapted a little bit more towards like the voices of the characters. Like JJ, I definitely went a little more high pitched in the narration, and like Red, I felt like I was a bit gruffer. I don't know, but this fic is so fun to read, so fun. And I keep getting tempted to read Stray Little Bat, but like, I'm already doing a lot of multi-chapter fics, like long ones. And this one's really long, and Stray Little Bat is really long. And like, it's a lot of work. Tapping my finger. It's a lot of work. How to Train Your Mer is going to take a while, and I already have one lined up once. What's the other one? Sound of Damian Wayne's done, because that one's almost done. But I already have something lined up after that. Another Danny Phantom crossover, because y'all, I love those, and y'all seem to love them too, so that's coming up next. Wow, I've been recording for almost an hour. 59 minutes and 20 seconds, roughly. Gee willikers. Okay, I'm gonna stop yapping, and I'll see you whenever I see you next. Alright, thanks for listening, and bye!